Hello, my name is Grant Fritchie. I work for Redgate Software as a DevOps advocate. I've worked there for 10 years. Before that, I was a DBA, and hey, I love my job. Now, with me today, I have.
I'm Santiago. I'm a tech lead software engineer as well for a product called Spawn that we've been working on for some 2 or 3 years. Been at Reggae for 6, and I love my job as well.
That's great. Good to hear it. All right, well, what we're here to talk about today is database DevOps, specifically how to get more realistic testing into your database DevOps processes. How to move a real database into your CI process, just as one possible example. How are we going to do that?
So in general, we do that by setting up migrations and starting to set up CI pipelines, but if you're not there yet, you actually might need to do source control and start source control your database, which might not be as easy as you think.
Or it might be pretty easy, depending on how
Or
you
it
do
might
it.
be pretty easy, exactly. And there are various ways to do this, right? There's the create empty case, there's the migrations, incremental migrations. So yeah, that's definitely the first step. And then from that, hopefully we can help you bring databases the same way you're bringing applications and software throughout your CI pipelines.
Well, I mean, so what's the problem? What's the problem? Why aren't people doing databases today? I mean, it makes sense to me. Database testing, yay, cool, let's go for it.
If you would ask someone 10 years ago, they will have so many reasons why. Because it's first of all, it has been very difficult because you have to bring data with it. And the difference with usual software is that a database has a database schema. Even if you source control it, you cannot source control the data. And so you have instances of the data is a little bit in the air. And so that is very hard to kind of move them back. But technology has come and technology has made this easier, and in some bits of that pipeline, like software like Docker, for example, has helped parts of the CI pipelines to become easier to do, but also to run locally, and people can test empty data cases easily. But as soon as data comes in, you need to start becoming a DevOps expert. You have to know how to handle volumes. You need to set up agents in your CI pipelines, and the managing of volumes is not necessarily a thing that you want your developers to learn. And so the barrier to entry is still quite high, and hopefully you can show some things that lower that bar.
Well, I mean, the other issues that you run into, of course, are data persistence and the one I've always used to fight with was data size. I mean, you've got a 5 terabyte database. It's kind of hard to give that to a developer. You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
so
Yes, and
so are we going to be able to give them the 5 terabyte database?
if they want it, yes, definitely. Obviously, they probably should have also other workflows in place, like masking and subsetting that can also help. But I think that's also part of the reasons why databases have always been slightly behind software. It is difficult to give to developers 400 gigabyte, 1 terabyte database for them to work against. And yes, they might not need it in all cases, but when they need it, you hope they had it every
Well,
time.
yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's one of the most common problems you run into is that there's some data set that it wasn't tested and therefore the code gets out to production and flops over dead and then all hell breaks loose from there, which is
Exactly.
not fun. All right, well, so how are we solving this problem? What are we doing today?
Okay, so today we're gonna show how we're using Flyway to run our migrations uh, against through a CI pipeline, but you're also gonna show Spawn, which is a service that helps provision databases on demand with or without data, depends on what you want. And in this case, we're gonna show how we can set up CI pipelines to test empty databases, but also databases that actually have data on it.
Sure. Okay, so now Flyway. What's Flyway is what exactly?
Flyway is a tool, it's an open source project uh, that helps you and that increment or change your database in an incremental way. But also, I think what's really great about it is it forces you into a workflow. It kind of forces you to work in a specific way and to move your changes to production in a specific way, so that if it breaks, you can roll back, you can know at which version your different databases are at, and you set up the good practices that we want from DevOps and CI in general for your developers and for your DBAs as well.
Oh, excellent. So now, Flyway works with a series of scriptings, works with source control, you get the version, all this stuff. Cool.
It also works for across our DBMS. I almost
That was
forgot
going to be my next question. You got me.
It is quite important, and I think one of the things that's great about it is you can really decide what database you want in, and almost all databases can be used with Flyway. So it's really cross our DBMS. It's also, you can use it through Docker containers. It's also cross-platform. There's no excuse not to use it.
Right. Postgres, MySQL, Linux, Windows.
Exactly. Right. It has more than, what is it, 8 years, 10 years of people testing this every day. Yeah. So it's good quality.
Excellent stuff. All right, and then Spawn, exciting. What is Spawn again? Now what's it do?
Okay, so what does it do? It gives you a database on demand for you to do what you want. You want it for dev, you can use it for dev. You want it for CI, it gives you for CI. The next question I usually get asked is like, why can I not use Docker? And the difference with something like Docker is it gives you data as well as a database. And you can get a database that can be very big, terabytes, gigabytes of data, very fast, and then drop it away as soon as you don't need it anymore. And so this lowers the barrier to entry for something like CI, but it also, if you want developers that are testing a specific performance use case or something like that, to get a database without having to go through a workflow, asking DBAs, and then having to wait for a whole week to get a backup.
Hey, we get it better faster in a week.
It depends on the workflow, depends on the company, but we want these kind of blockers to go away. Not the DBA, I'm not saying the DBA is a blocker, but these workflows that take time and restores, backups in general, something that take time, and if we can kind of give developers what they need, the sooner, hopefully, the more tests and the more they can check and get good quality software out.
All right, so let me just paraphrase. What you're telling me is that with Spawn, you can get me a copy of a database, but let's say 500 megs, something, not huge, but not tiny either. I can get that quickly, and I can get it without having to take up my entire laptop.
Exactly. It is a service. It's a service that runs in Redgate Realms, and that once you create a database image that has all the data you need, you can create as many containers from that image. Even at the same time, you can spawn 10 databases from that image, all over 500 gigabytes or terabytes, whatever you need, and then delete them whenever you don't need them anymore.
Okay, I'm almost sold. I'm almost ready to give you my money. Show me how it works.
Okay, I definitely want your money, Grant. So here we go. So we have this repo. It's open source. Please check it out if you want to know.
You need to share your screen.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Small detail. Okay.
Yep.
There we go.
There we go.
So we have this repo called Flyway Spawn demo. It is open source. Please check it out to know the internals of what I'm about to show. Let's go directly to the pull request. In this repo, we're working with a Paglia database, which is a Postgres database, the equivalent of AdventureWorks. I think it's in the sizes of the megabytes, hundreds maybe. And I have a pull request that Chris created for me this morning, and that essentially creates some, I think, because it's using Flyway, it's essentially applying a new migration. And he's saying, hey, I want this migration applied so that my application has this new table that I'm about to use for this specific feature. Now, with GitHub
table and an index. Let's
everything.
Yeah.
with GitHub, you obviously get GitHub Actions, and you can trigger various checks that you want. In this case, we have created some checks for people, for developers, to be sure that whatever they're doing, things are exercised in a specific way. In this case, we have two checks. The first one that runs database migrations against an empty schema or an empty database. And the second one that runs migrations against a backup of production from yesterday. You can see in the right the time that this took. So this empty database took 1 minute to run. What we're doing here with downloading Spawn CTL, which is a CLI we're using to operate on Spawn and to get that container or that database instance we need. Once we get that, we're applying all empty migrations from the start. And then surely at the end of this, we should see that our new migration, which was 1.13, is the last that was applied. And so that first test passes.
Oh, cool.
We do the same.
Well, I mean that's really common. I've got the same thing. I'm doing it with instead of GitHub Actions, I'm using Azure DevOps, and I'm creating a local Postgres container. I'm running Flyway. Same stuff. I mean, it's all, again, all open source,
Exactly.
against an empty database to ensure that your code is working, right? That's the whole goal here.
Exactly. And then you can definitely do this with Docker as well. If you pass you probably need to learn a little bit of Docker to do that, but you can pass your schema.
I was using Docker for what I was doing. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. The other great thing with this setup is that you're always ensuring that the green, whenever you need to spawn a database from empty of the application that you're working with, that use case always works. So if a new developer joins the team and it starts working on your app or on your project, at least that use case also works. So this is definitely a good check. It will check some things, but there's some things it will not check.
Okay.
There are some things that will fall into the cracks, and that's why we want to also test with data, which is the second check that we got here. In this case, we do the same operations as before. The first thing we do is we download our Spawn CTL command line. We create a database container. We call data container from that last production backup. And then we run the migrations. Now, if you see and if you compare the output from the previous, you see that this one's shorter. And the reason for that is that the backup of production was already at 1.12. So there's not a lot to apply. Only the new migrations are getting applied. And in this case, the one that Chris created for me. And that's the only one that gets applied. You can see that this test took 26 seconds to run. And what's happening here is we're creating a database on the fly that is a backup from production. We're running the test against it, and then we're deleting it.
And this is data. This is
data.
There's data in place. So with data, you ran faster than without data.
Yes, it's an interesting concept. In applying multiple migrations is actually slower than applying a single migration. So I'm bringing up a backup with Spawn, obviously, maybe with other things, it would take more time.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, I got another example for you.
Okay.
In this case, let's go with this one. So in this case, Ellie decided to add an extra column to one of her tables. So we can see the migration that is getting applied is also 13. We're altering the table actor. We're adding a middle name column to it, and then we're saying the first name will go to would get into the middle name, and then it will the first name will get the left side.
Right. Okay, so this is data movement. We are literally migrating data from one place to another in this instance.
Exactly.
Okay.
One of the things that Ellie also did, because she's a good developer, is she added some tests to this. So we have some before and after scripts. One of the things that are getting checked is that the data we're getting from after these runs with data is the right one. Let's have a look.
Good for Ellie. I love seeing developers do it the right way.
Yes, you always do. empty case, nothing new there. The migration was able to get applied without issue. When we run the migration against the backup of production, the migration actually passes, and you can see it here. Successfully apply one migration. So her migration is definitely correct.
All right.
Now,
So
is that enough?
The script ran, right?
Exactly.
Alter table and all the rest of that stuff. Okay, cool.
Exactly. The data was moved. Now she added that extra table or data check I showed you, and actually it didn't work. Why? And the reason for that is, for this specific example, Susan Alice Alexandra Porter, which is like a double name, we're missing the Alexandra, and so the data movement that we're doing in that migration, I lost some data, and this workflow kind of caught it.
We literally lost data. If this ran untested against production, we lost data.
Exactly.
Susan
And you definitely don't want that.
Alice Alexander there is going to be angry with us.
Yeah.
Let
Maybe
alone
not Susan Alexandra, but Susan Alice Porter.
Right. let alone the GDPR and all the rest for throwing data away. Wow. Okay, cool. So it the script was fine, but it was wrong.
Exactly. And there are multiple examples like this in which the migration that gets applied is maybe correctly or syntactically correct, but maybe you're destroying data, you're removing a column you shouldn't, or things like this. And
that's cool.
If you're not looking that in oversight, you might have to spend a long time trying to restore that. And we've seen in the last 2 years only, like some big companies like GitLab just had a migration error, and it took them some hours to get everything back to normal. So
I know exactly what I know that feeling
even the big
well.
companies are going through this.
Well, hang on. So fine. This is actually really cool, but we were talking about like slightly bigger databases than the sample database here. How does it run with a larger database?
Is actually as fast. I think in general, Spawn is able to provision you a database of 500 gigabytes, for example, in less than 30 seconds, I'd say. I have an example here with Stack Overflow, which kindly open sourced their database with data for people to run. And I can show you that.
Yeah. Show me.
So
I'm in.
Excellent. So we got here SpawnCTL is our it's our command line tool that we're using to operate on Stack Overflow or for any database that you want. It's in open beta, it's a service, and I got this Stack Overflow data image, and from that I can create a data container from that image. And what that's going to do is it's going to go and it's going to provision for me a database from that first standpoint or snapshot that I've created.
Right.
Now that first snapshot is the one that takes time, obviously, because you're uploading to our services 400 gigabytes of data. But once that's there, it is actually quite fast for us to create a database on demand. And I want you to see that last column is called expired at. So one of the things you can do with Spawn is you can set up the lifetime. Oh, sorry. The container is ready to go. So we just created a Stack Overflow database. And let me connect to it to prove that these are no lies.
That was just over 30 seconds.
I
so
have
500 gigs in 30 seconds. Cool.
Exactly. Imagine that. That is great. If you click on Manage on Data Studio, it'll show you the server. And you can see the data sizing here. So that was faster than 30 seconds, I reckon.
Wow.
Ready to go. We have all Stack Overflow data. Get some tags just to prove everything's in place. There we go. And we got all Stack Overflow data right out of.
Oh, cool. So 30 seconds, 500 gigs. Yeehaw.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
that's not the only thing you can do with Spawn. You can do reset operations. So I could delete a column and I can reset, and that will take us slightly about the same amount of time. So now that you can do these operations quickly and provide databases fast, that means that your developers can get the data they need to test their features, their pull requests, but also that your CI pipelines are not using databases that are shared and are long running, but you're actually moving the databases through those pipelines as well as the code. So
Nice and fresh
we're very
and
excited with
constantly on
it.
demand. That's great.
Exactly.
What do we want people to do next?
Right. So what we want people to do is to check out uh, flywaydb.org. That's Flyway for Flyway, and to set up your migrations. Go to spawn.cc, which is a service we showed today to provision databases on demand. It is in open beta, and it will have a free tier.
We're
And for
hoping to
any
have a free tier.
questions,
Yeah. Cool.
exactly, and email
Excellent.
us if you have any
Well,
questions.
that's about it for us. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate your time. Santiago, any last words?
No, thank you very much. Try out the tools. We're very happy to show them. And thank you, Grant. It's been great.
Oh, no, you too. Thanks.